So after a 1 week break, Fire Force has returned with episode 3. It took a 1 week break because of the Kyoto animation incident that cost many people their lives and just seriously injured so many people. And to air something like Fire Force, it's just that wouldn't happen. Both in and out of Japan, when tragedies such as these occur, things that mirror that tragedy generally either get pushed back, delayed, cut, reworked, something to that nature. Fire Force only had a 1 week break. It could have been a lot longer, and it has returned, and apparently some of the dialogue might have been changed, but I do know, and it's clear as day when you watch the episode, some of the shots were also edited, especially seen by the end of the episode when there is a couple of minutes of just one shot as dialogue is playing. But I was actually expecting a lot more, like within the actual combat animation. I thought maybe a lot of the flames and stuff would have to be reworked. But honestly, based on what could have happened after the Kyoto animation incident in terms of Fire Force's airing, because the incident never should have happened, but to have the incident happen and have something like Fire Force airing, it's really the worst timing imaginable. But to see like the actual episode overall, I have to say, I didn't really think the quote-unquote censoring was anything that really distracted me. The fact that the biggest thing that kind of like took me out of the episode for a minute was them just talking, looking at a burned building. I mean, the shot looked good in general, so I was like, if that's like the type of censoring that could happen in the future, if you see the outers of the building and it being burned or victims being burned, I can understand not showing that and cutting around it. And based on how limited amount of time they had to basically get this episode up and running, I can understand why something like this had to happen. But honestly, I know people are going to bitch and moan all they want, but for me, it didn't really distract me because, as I said, the actual combat animation and most of the flames within the building, they were pretty much the same. The only thing that was a little bit different is sometimes some of the flames on the outer like walls and things like that, it wouldn't be as bright as it normally would be. Like the contrast was kind of taken down, so it wouldn't be as vibrant and as just almost mirroring what happened with Kyoto animation. But with that said, just get that out of the way, we can talk about the actual episode at hand, which I thought was a very fun episode overall. It's pretty much the rookie games, pretty much supposed to be simulating, you have to go protect people. It's not actually supposed to be life or death, but you're supposed to treat it as such. But because this is Fire Force, not everything is going to go according to plan, and things start happening that make us question the Fire Force in general, because the person who was there for old Shinra back in the day once his family was burned alive, he seemingly is shady. He's saying he doesn't remember because 12 years ago I've fought with many fires before, but something seems a little off, and one of the potential villains is saying, hey, your brother's still alive. Hey, maybe these organizations you're fighting for aren't as heroic as they might be. And based on the end dialogue, it seems like they might even know the potential of how the Infernals kind of come to be, and it seems like maybe the Fire Force isn't all it's cracked up to be. Of course, the organization, the squad that Shinra is a part of, is clearly run by a very noble and just man, but there's different factions, there's different people with their hands in the pot of how things will operate, so it wouldn't be surprising if a lot or just a small section are maybe a little corrupt in their own way. I'm already starting to think if like they truly do know how these kind of infernals come to be, if they're not revealing it to the public, because if they did reveal it to the public, then that would mean that they wouldn't have a job anymore. I'm wondering if that's the direction they might go, saying like, we have to keep having this happen, as otherwise, what are they going to do? Just go back to general firefighting? They probably wouldn't need as many fire forces as they currently have. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that is happening, but obviously it's not going to just be that, I'm sure there'll probably be something either completely different or more to it. But it does lead this to be a lot more complex than just, you have to fight the bad guys and there's that. No, you might even have to fight your own organization if there is some hidden agendas that may not align with the nobility that you're going for. I have to say, we get introduced to Tamaki and just her overall cat-like powers. In terms of her abilities, I think they're actually incredibly interesting and unique. The idea of like cat fire, in terms of just the agility, the mobility, but also just the way her attacks kind of go about it. I actually thought it was incredibly unique, incredibly fun. Just overall, I wasn't expecting it in the slightest. Her overall fan service, I was basically hearing about before this episode. People were saying they were hoping they would tone down some of her lines, and then other people being like, no, tone them up, I love it. For me, I was kind of indifferent. There was one moment where it did get a chuckle at me. The rest, I was just like, it's anime. You see this type of stuff before. I'm just glad it wasn't happening in the actual serious moments. If it happened in the serious moments, like imagining if it was someone like, a person really terrified about being burned alive, or just, you're fighting an actual infernal, I wouldn't want something like that to happen. But when it's happening outside of it in just the general scenes when they are being a little more goofy, it honestly doesn't distract me too much. I don't love it, I don't hate it, it's just kind of part of it. But I do enjoy her powers overall, so I'm actually incredibly excited to see how she will just be in combat, especially just going forward in this series, because it is going to be 48 episodes total across 2 seasons, so I think we'll get a lot both maybe the positive and the negative with this character, but obviously we'll see where it goes. I was very indifferent overall, so I don't really have something positive or really negative to say about the overall perviness to her character, but her action was absolutely incredible. I thought just the overall, like, exploring this building, kind of like learning the truth, or at least, you know, starting to question just what Shinra is currently a part of, I thought was really fun because this guy was just like throwing ashes around, igniting, blowing things apart, and to just once again see those flames, which honestly I did miss seeing the animation to this show. It's just goddamn gorgeous. And to see just the overall acrobatics, I just love the idea that his flames basically come out of his feet, so it allows for you to do interesting maneuvers. Like, you see characters kick all the time, but to basically spin around on your hands as basically flames are coming from your feet, and you're doing these crazy moves, not only can you just, like, shoot flames from it, you can actually propel yourself, so if you, like, throw yourself in the air, you can use your feet to then charge right back in. It allows for the combat to actually have a lot of possibilities for such a basic just shift. Instead of having it on your, like, you know, you're punching with your fist and there's flames coming out of it. Because it's attached to your feet, your mobility is just changed completely, and it allows for such fun acrobatics and movements overall. And it was actually pretty terrifying because, you know, this was supposed to be a training montage, not something that was supposed to, you know, actually potentially kill people. And to have this man, you know, push back against Shinra because he didn't join him, which I can understand, you know, wanting someone of this caliber and just overall skill level to join your organization, trying to obviously emotionally manipulate, saying, you know, you should question this because your brother's still alive. I can show you where your brother is, maybe. Obviously, it's kind of clear why the antagonists and villains of the world would maybe want someone like him, because he's clearly someone pretty special, and he also kind of respects that he can smile in the face of him, just not realizing that his smiling is something due to fear and him not being able to control his overall reactions in that well of a way. So I thought it was pretty fun just seeing how they kind of combined forces with, you know, Arthur, Shinra, Tamaki, and just seeing the idea of trying to cut through the roof, but that wasn't enough, and then you see the cat powers activate, and they just get out in the nick of time. And to just see the building explode, it was so crazy to see the destruction, being like, we nearly just lost a main character. Now, of course, you can argue we're only 3 episodes in. We weren't actually going to lose a character, but we could have lost Arthur. I mean, we just got introduced to Arthur. Arthur didn't have to be a main part of this cast. Tamaki didn't have to be a part of the side cast, right? So they could have severely not only injured characters that were going to be reoccurring, or just maybe the people who were supposed to be a part of the crew and just, they were just trying to be, you know, the stunt devils and then lost their lives. It really felt tense, and it kind of highlights that who Shinra has to go up against is extremely dangerous, extremely powerful, but also he now has to question his own organization and wonder why are their secrets being kept and who truly knows what's going on. That's why he's so polite, saying like, oh, I don't deserve your praise, you're so amazing, even though he immediately is now questioning who he can actually trust, which I'm glad he actually did confront his captain about this and he didn't keep this a secret, because he gained the trust not only of his captain, but he also put his trust in his captain. And I love that, because you need something a part of this fire force that you can believe in and say, this isn't corrupt, we can believe in this crew, and we can believe in the captain and Shinra's squad. It's just the rest of it, it's kind of a coin toss of who we should believe and who we should trust in. It's just, we gotta fight the demons, we have to save people, but also uncover the mysteries, and Fire Force has just gotten to another level of just possibilities and story arcs that we can go through, and I'm incredibly excited for more. This is a great episode overall. Of course, there was obviously some changes, and I mean, I'm fine not seeing the outers of the buildings basically burning at times and maybe bodies being burned because of what just happened in Japan, but no, I actually thought a lot more would be changed with just the overall directing, and I was pleasantly surprised on such short notice that a majority of this episode was still intact. And going forward, because they are working on Fire Force, if they do have to make changes, I'm sure it'll be a lot more elegant than we've seen in this episode compared to where they can go when they can actually control the storyboards and things like that going forward with production. I'll probably never get over just how fun the simple scenes outside of the combat are. It would be so easy for this to just be incredibly boring without the firefighting action, because if you look at the previews for this show, I'm sure a lot of people probably checked out Fire Force just because of the animation for the combat. I know I was pretty damn intrigued because of that, but I do appreciate the fact that even when it is tropey or gimmicky such as Tamaki in this episode, the general conversations and banters with the personalities at hand, both the ones that we have a pretty good understanding of right now and those that we are curious about, I actually think the overall slice of life or just the general mundane scenes come across as pretty fun in anime that don't distract me or kind of put me away from the serious elements. Like when they need to go serious, I still think it's just incredibly gripping, emotionally gripping, and you just feel incredibly attached to what's going on. But a majority of the episode isn't them in life or death situations, it's them talking, planning, maybe just goofing off, and I have a blast watching it because it helps it feel like there's a fun factor to this. We don't always have to be on the edge of our seat thinking characters are going to die, and I appreciate that because I think you need a balance of serious and just, goofy, and I think Fire Force, with the aesthetic and just the overall characters' personalities, I think they have a really interesting way to make it feel goofy and fun in an appropriate way, and then shift right into the serious when you need to, in a very solid way overall. So yeah, I'm enjoying the formula quite a bit, both with the action and the simplistic moments of Fire Force so far, and I can't wait to see more. But overall, I thought Fire Force Episode 3 was a great episode, a great return to form, really showcasing, shaking up what we knew and what we don't know about this world and its characters, and I'm incredibly excited for Episode 4 next week. But for manga readers, anime originals like myself, what did you think of Episode 3 of Fire Force? Love it, hate it, favorite moment? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video though, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you have been new. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.